Hey guys, how's it going? This is Davin with Davin D Doodles, and thank you so much for joining me again. Today I am bringing you something a little bit different. It is something I have been working on throughout the week in preparation for the infamous Inktober. I spent some time trying to kind of recover from a major art block, and I was kind of putting a lot of pressure on myself knowing that Inktober was coming, so I wanted to do something fun, something a little bit more spontaneous and not putting as much on myself to get everything done right away. So I took some time throughout the week and I actually started developing a character that wasn't human. That's usually not what I go for. Usually my characters are humans, they're put in like weird situations, but aside from maybe Duncan, Robin, and now this guy, it's becoming a lot more fun to play with making human features on something that's not human. So I'm really kind of trying to learn how to become more animated with poses to give personality to something that doesn't really exist. I'm trying to really work on making things more expressive. And so even when I started just drawing out this figure, I wanted to do something a little bit more simple. I wanted to do maybe a mouse. I know that's kind of cliche. There's a lot going on with mice right now. I have several coloring books based on mice and their little towns, which is so cute. But I know that mice tend to be something a little bit more easy. So I was trying to kind of give myself a break for Inktober. If this is going to be a character I follow, I want to be able to draw him every day and not, want to shoot myself at the end. So I decided to do a mouse, and I started originally to give him more human proportions. I wanted to kind of have him look almost human, and then just have like, the little snoot and then the big ears. And I started rethinking it a little bit. I've been doing a little bit more research on animation, and I'm trying to look more into character creation as a whole. So something that I heard of was like the 3-2-1, like playing with proportions of like the face or the body to make something more visually interesting. And I don't know how successful I was here, but I definitely took away from the more proportionate, and I wanted to give it a little bit more punches of something just more interesting and visually pleasing to look at. So I did make his ears a little bit big. I gave him nice poofy hair. His eyes are a little bit adorable, but I mean, his face is relatively proportionate, and I intentionally wanted to give him a nice long torso. I wanted to give him really long, skinny arms, and I really wanted to give him kind of shorter, chunkier legs. Now, I didn't end up keeping that aspect. I did shorten the legs a bit, but they're not chunky. They're almost like little toothpicks. And I just love his little round belly and his gigantic mouse tail. That really kind of pulled him together. So, something else I really enjoyed about this was just playing with like his little toes and deciding how many toes he would have and how, human his hands would look because I had already at this point started really developing the character as a whole. He was coming to life even just from his T-pose. And something else I really wanted to push myself to do was make a little bit of a character sheet. That's how you develop people, that's how you learn about them. And so I started like I wanted to try to draw him from behind because I knew for some of my pictures I was going to have to draw him from behind. Could I even draw him from that perspective and be able to do it? And yes, I could. And that's one of my favorite poses of him. He looks adorable. He looks a little bit chunky. You can see the pooch in his belly. And he still looks very mouse-like. He looks very adorable. He's still got the huge, really like almost tubular ears, which I'm aware that mice don't really have those ears, but he's become a space mouse, so I really don't care. And so I just really started enjoying the proportions that I was kind of solidifying for him. And then I drew a few other poses where his personality started coming out. Originally, I wanted more of like a serious mouse that was just gonna go and like kick some butt and do some really cool adventure stuff. and he turned out to be kind of a goofball, and I'm not surprised that one of my characters became a goofball. Let's face it, that's what they are. And so like you have one where him getting out of bed and he's stretching, which is a pose that I was actually really impressed with. I was so happy I was able to pull that pose off without really having any reference. And then it's kind of like turned into his morning routine, because the next one is him trying to like tug on jeans that are a little too tight with his tail getting in the way. And then the next one is him drinking some coffee and just kind of trying to wake up and trying to figure out where he is. Though Anthony kind of ruined that for me and asked why he was trying to look sexy. And it's like, dude, it's a mouse. He's not sexy. He's just trying to figure out where he is and wake up a little bit. But I really love the sheet that I have so far. I might actually finish the spread on the other side with just more sketches of him, because at this point his personality is coming through and I'm really enjoying it more, and I want to kind of show more of his life, like where he lives, what he does for a living, which is actually pretty cool, and just more of him in general, maybe in some of those actiony poses that I had originally intended but hadn't included here because I was too busy trying to figure out what he even looked like. So, plus, I mean, I kind of noticed that he doesn't have much clothes on here. This is a very naked spread, so I'm going to have to fix that on the other side and kind of work more with his wardrobe. It's very dirty because of his job. So at this point, I knew what he looked like, and I knew I could pose him in different ways and come up with a really creative story for him, because he's a space mouse. He's got all kinds of stuff going on adventure-wise, and there's more that I don't know that I should tell you guys, but I probably will at the end anyway. And I was just playing with some colors. So I threw down kind of like a peachy, almost human tone for his hands and feet, and even his tail and his little muzzle, which almost looks like a bear muzzle now that I look at it. He's got a couple of things going on here. And he just started looking like a monkey to me, and I really hated it because I couldn't make him not look like a monkey. And I tried like layering colors and like removing colors, and it just didn't look right. And at the end it started to look very Jerry from like the Tom and Jerry TV series. So I wasn't too happy with that either. And I decided maybe I needed to go a little bit more golden with his skin color, or his fur color I should say, and do more of like a sandy for his hands and feet and his muzzle, and just play with the colors and the hues and see what comes up. And so that's what I did on the backwards T-pose. I started playing with that because I knew for sure that I wanted his ears, like the rims of his ears, to have a really darker color, but that didn't mean they had to be brown or black or anything like that. And so I really just wanted to kind of see what I could do that would play with expectations, because when I think of mice, I think of either lab rats, which are white, or I think of like Jerry, which was like the brown color. And that's pretty much, I mean, unless you go gray or blue for like Remy from Ratatouille, like that's immediately where my mind goes. And Anthony had brought up a really good point of suggesting make him red, make him like a more red mouse. He's a space mouse. It can be whatever color you want, but make him red, see what you can do with that. And I think that's what I was originally trying to do with the one originally, was try to put more red and brown colors in there, and it just wasn't very successful. I also, on the original, kind of forgot that I could layer my markers, so I think that was a problem, and I was just having some issues getting the confidence to dive in and risk messing up the page. But I went in with the second one, and I really started to like the way the streaky markers looked like fur. I liked the colors I was getting with these markers. They look like he would have red patches and like a golden fur. And that's exactly what Anthony had mentioned, and it looks different from what I see in most, like, comics or animations and things like that. Most mice are gray, white, or brown, and so he's gonna be red because that's what I like. And of course, it's also the marker that's the most rare in my set, and I'm gonna have to replace an entire set when it goes dry. And I also, fun fact, nearly broke that marker when I was coloring him. Yeah, I almost cried. Luckily, I was able to pry it apart and fix it, because the entire, part the cap just came off and like the nib and everything came off inside the cap. I was very, very upset. That's not the first time that's happened with my Ohuhu markers either, so I'm not sure what the deal is there, but maybe I'm just a little rough with them when I get excited. I don't know. So this was definitely one of my favorite moments, was coloring this picture in particular. I don't know why I love it so much. I think it's just, I don't know, I just love it. I love his like little hairy like dude legs, and I love his little heart boxers, and I just like love the fact that, you know, who doesn't look like that in the morning? He doesn't look like a beautiful princess that's just rolled out of bed with perfect hair. He looks like a hot mess. And it was the first thing I actually drew that gave him a punch of personality that I just kind of ran with the rest of it. So I really enjoyed having this one and coloring it. And it's the same process, and it's also the first one that I mixed the colors from the very trials at the top. I wanted to keep the fur color for his name is Cal at this point. I can go ahead and reveal that. So I wanted to keep Cal's fur colors because I really, really like the punches of golden red. But it looked kind of weird paired with like a sandy color for his little hands and his tail and stuff. And so I went ahead and I used the more peachy color from the one on the right, the front T-pose. And I think it looks much better when they're combined that way as opposed to like having the sand or like having him really, really red and brown. I think this is a very beautiful combination and I love it to death. And so I just started kind of having fun with it. And you know what? It had been a while since I had fun doing art. And that's hard for me to admit and really hard for me to say. But I was going through a phase for a while where I was putting a lot of pressure on myself to get things done and just have something finished to share with people. And it became a job, it became a task, and it wasn't fun anymore. And this was the first time I had had fun in a long time. And it took me a week to do one page, but you know what? I enjoyed it and I had a lot of fun coloring it. And so I figured I would share it with you guys because I had a blast and maybe you'll enjoy it too. So this was something else I kind of drew kind of off the cuff. And I'm sure there are many women out there that can relate to this, like when you just can't fit in your pants and you're like laying on the bed and trying to shove them up over your hips. That's kind of what he's trying to do here. He's got a little bit of a belly. He's probably eaten a little bit too much and gained a little bit of weight. You know, he's got that quarantine 15 or whatever they're calling it. So he's trying to fit himself into his pants so he can start his day. And this is the final one. I knew I had to do something with him with clothes at some point, and I was trying to figure out what he would actually wear. And he wears a couple things depending on what he's doing for the day. And this is more like his lounge wear. He's kind of roaming around his little warehouse. He's gonna do some work around his house and not be out adventuring kind of clothes. So he does a lot of scrapping. He's a space mouse and he makes his living by scrapping like old spaceships and salvaging spaceships from random places and getting the scrap metal and stuff like that. So he's got like welding goggles kind of draped around his neck because otherwise he would lose them. He's got like he's got a shirt that's a little bit more on the fitted side, but it's still got enough room that he can, you know, easily move around. And he's got his jeans that have got kind of holes in them, burns in them, stuff like that. So he's not necessarily a slob, he just has a very physical job and he's around a bunch of junk anyway, so what does he care what he looks like? So this is what I have for you guys this week, a little space mouse named Cal. I hope that you enjoyed watching the creation process, and let me know down in the comments what your favorite pose is, as well as the favorite color scheme. I'm really curious what you guys think and what I should keep going forward with. Also, if you haven't already, please give the video a thumbs up if you like the content, and go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I try to bring you something new every week, and I hope everybody has a really great Inktober. I hope you're successful, and I will see you guys next week.